Aragoke, do they lighten or darken with age and size? That's really going to vary, because Aragoke is sort of the broad term realistically for the sort of scalation of the fish. So it's basically the doits, but with the sort of ununiform big scales, or the random big scales on the body. For those who don't know, doitsu was actually a German word for big scales. So original Deutz fish in Japan would have looked more like this. You know, you get the uniform, like we like to see with Karashi, going down the lateral line and the dorsal, the scale edges. That's a typical Deutzer Koi. However, what the Japanese wanted to do with that is, their idea of the perfect Deutz fish was to eliminate all the scales completely. And that's what's taken all the work, because we see sort of like Miyatora breeds Deutsch Showa, and he's not as advanced in doing that as the really established line of Shinoda and Hiroi, for example. They really cracked getting the Deutsch scales away, but it's took a long time. And this is why genetically they can be a bit of a nightmare and so hard to produce, with a lot of deformities in the spawning. Miyatora's, however, produces some great fish, but what you see a lot more is the random, sort of sometimes full lines, or then random big Deutsch scales across the lateral line. So that's because I should imagine he'll be working on trying to eliminate it, but that's taking time and time and time. And one thing I know with Miyatora Deutsch is he gets a fair bit of size to him, so that's the potential conflict there as well in achieving that. He's probably going to have to compromise on that scale line. So, Sorry. So coming back to Aragoke, the term really is for that. So what's happened is the Japanese spent all that time producing these Deutsch fish that are completely scaleless, to then start throwing all the scales back on. I find it quite hilarious, to be fair, but that's just the way trends and things like that go. So as opposed to any Deutsch scale, Aragoke is more, think of it as the scale pattern, and then apply it, because we've got Aragoke realistically. If we look at Dainichi Black Zeus, that really is Aragoke in how it's sort of forming. But what they are deep down is a Komonryu. So darkening or lightening with them, Komonryu, if we boil that down, act very differently to some of the, say, metallic-y sort of Aragokes that you've seen. From what I've seen of them, they tend to react more to just temperature. So, darkening up, more in the warmer water, almost like Chagoi, and then lightening up in the cooler water. A lot of them seem to be going around sort of, if they've come from Kogane lineage, I'm not sure of that, although where in Oyama fish farm has been producing a lot of these, and from what I've seen, there's been Kogane Achiba in amongst the mix and Deutsch Achievers, so there's clearly them genetics in there, and that's what sort of set that coloration up. So on that basis, I would expect them to darken in warmer water, because that's what Achiever do, and lighten in cooler water. So that probably answers it from various different angles. But what we also get is sort of Aragoke style Chagoi, Deutsch Chags. There's a lot coming from it, and loads of different variations cropping up. So I think consider the term and think of that, scale pattern, and then you're really going to have to judge the rest based on the variety that it actually is sat underneath that scale pattern. So that's the best way I can sort of put that one across.